All right, everyone, welcome to Headspace. Today, we have a very good, powerful amplifier of personal branding as a guest. Her name is Michelle Prince. She is a best-selling author. She represents sort of this idea of self-publishing and how to amplify your voice, how to build a personal brand, all of those things. And she's actually helping me publish my book. So I was just very excited to have her on the show. In just a minute, I'll bring her to the stage. But before that, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section wherever you're listening and or watching this. We always respond either live or post show. This is a live stream that we, by the way, do every single Wednesday. Welcome to Headspace Live. Here we go. Michelle, welcome.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I just love working with you. I know that we have sort of established this relationship, this friendship. You were sort of, hey, Christian, you should write a book. You should write a book, and I would go, yes, I know. Everybody tells me this, but I don't have the time. I have like these 3, 4 things going on at the same time, and eventually, actually, your voice contributed to me going, yeah, I guess I need to cave and do this. And so I sort of came back to you and said, I think I'm ready, Michelle. Can you help me? So you and your team are helping me publish this book that I'm writing called Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America. And I'm really excited about it. But before we go into actually, I don't want to go into my book at all. This show is about you and your journey and what you do and how you help people build your brand, their personal brand. But I wanted to just start with this. What's the backstory? How did you uh, what is the origin story of you becoming Michelle Prince, performance publishing founder, and who has helped dozens and dozens of people uh, build their brands, amplify their signal, all of those things?
Wow. Well, I didn't set out to be a publisher. I can promise you that. It kind of evolved. And the backstory is I began my career working with Zig Ziglar, and that really laid the foundation for so much of who I am today, what I love to do. And I worked with him for many years, but then left to go pursue a career in software and climb a corporate ladder and really just do all the things I thought would make me, quote unquote, happy. And what I found was I was successful, but I wasn't fulfilled. And it brought me down this path of really, if I could do anything, what would I do? And this went on for a decade or more. And then but one thing I always wanted to do, and I didn't even dare tell anybody, was write a book. I really didn't even know what I would write about, so it was something that I thought about, kind of like you. We thought about it, people would say it, but I just never really, I just thought I could do it. And then in 2009, I did write a book, and it was called Winning in Life Now. And I never intended for anyone to ever read that book except for my kids, because I wanted them to know my story, but I didn't really have much ambition beyond that. But what happened was, as soon as we released the book and as soon as it got out there and it took off and it hit bestseller in a couple categories, and it opened up these opportunities for speaking and consulting and things like that, I would get so many questions when I was out speaking. And the two main questions I would get was, number one, what was it like working for Zig Ziglar? Everyone wanted to know that. Great man. Yes. But the second question was, how did you write your book? I want to publish a book. And so it evolved from me speaking and sharing, and which I'm still very passionate about, helping people to find their passion, their purpose, and really take their gifts and put them out there into the world. But then I also got passionate about, wow, if I can do this, you can do this. And so I went down the path in 2010 to officially start a publishing company to help people to get their book out there, but not in the broken way that it's been done all these years in publishing. This is more, the benefits go to the author, and I just assist them in helping them to get their books complete. So that's the short end of that story, but it was unintentional.
Okay, so I'm so sorry that I have to do this to you, but how was it to work with Zig Ziglar? I sort of knew that in the back of my mind. And then once you said it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like we can't not talk about this. I'm sorry. You have to share the goods here.
Truly, I feel so incredibly blessed that I had that opportunity, and I will talk about it forever and as long as anyone will let me. It was incredible. When I was 18, my parents literally forced me to go to one of his conferences, and I didn't want to go. I went kicking and screaming, but ended up loving it.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him at 18, and you're really confident at that age, and I'm like, I'm going to work for you one day. You just wait and see.
Really?
I
Wow.
did. I just had a gut feeling. And then about 5 years later to the day is when it's a long story. I won't go into how it happened, but that I serendipitously ended up at his office and got a job. And so I worked there. Literally, I was 6 months out of college. So it was the beginning of my
What a
journey.
privilege. Yeah.
Mhm. And I'll just say one thing about him. I mean, the man, he was successful. He was a speaker. He wrote close to 40 books, and he was amazing in that, right? But he was the most incredible man of integrity, care, love for people. He was better behind the scenes than he was on stages.
That's remarkable. And of course, I've heard so much about him,
Yeah.
and he's responsible for creating, inspiring some of the most influential people in marketing, in
Yeah.
modern marketing. And that one man, everybody quotes him, everybody talks to him, and you had actually direct access to the master. And wow, I'm in awe. I wish I knew him. Like, I've heard so much about him that I go, man, it would have been so nice to at least meet him one day.
Yeah.
But
Oh, he was just amazing. But the beauty of that is his message carries on, because
yeah.
there are so many people like myself, and his son Tom Ziegler runs the company, and there's thousands of people worldwide that want to keep his legacy alive. So it's he may not be here, but his message is.
That's remarkable. So, okay, so you started off by just saying, okay, I'm going to write a book.
Mhm.
It caught on. Other people wanted to learn how to do that. You started performance publishing. What are some of the common obstacles that people have, I guess? And the reason I ask you is because I have those obstacles. You have those obstacles. I'm
Mhm.
sure and I find it to be infinitely inspiring to be able to remove those obstacles and say, look, you have a voice, you have expertise. what what's keeping you from actually putting it out there?
Yeah.
What have you encountered as the obstacles for people to actually write a book and create a personal brand and put their message out there?
I mean, so many people just don't believe that their story matters, or that they even
Yeah.
have a story. A lot of people are like, well, I don't really, I didn't go through anything traumatic, or I didn't have this. And, I don't have a story. And I'm like, give me 5 minutes and I'll figure out your story, because everybody has
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So it's first convincing people that they do, but then also not making it such a big mountain to climb, because it's really not. I mean, yes, there are, especially if you're going to self-publish, there's lots of different things you have to learn to do, but it's really not. It's not rocket science, So you're doing probably things 10 times harder, but I think a little bit too, what I see with this was the case for myself, is a little bit of that self-doubt too, of like, well, who do I think I am to write a book?
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about this because I think the story part is pretty self-evident, right? When our stories are so familiar to us
Mm-hmm.
that we don't think they are special,
Yes.
and they really are,
Mhm.
if you know how to tell the story. But this sort of imposter syndrome dimension, it's very, very real with anybody.
It is so real. In fact, I was with this was several years ago. I was with a bunch of speakers at an event, and some big names, people that you would recognize. And we were talking about imposter syndrome. And these people who have followings and that you would never believe would feel that way also felt that way. So it made me just realize, wow, we all have an imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it changes. It just means that you're willing to put yourself out there, knowing that maybe this story will help somebody, or inspire somebody, or teach them something, and it makes it worth it. But I don't think anybody ever gets over it completely, because at the end of the day, we're all like, oh, I'm just me. But that's the beauty of us sharing our stories, because nobody can relate to perfect. And so when it's just me sharing my story and getting past a hurdle or an obstacle, it's like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it, or she can do it, I can do it.
So, okay, so let's unpack this a little bit further, because I really feel like probably the number one reason why people don't do this.
Hmm.
And I'm right. I mean, I've done quite a few things in my life. I'm writing this book, and I get the feeling
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah. And the judgment of like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah,
what will people think? Or will they like it? Will they think I'm,
yeah.
so many
Like there's so so how do you break that sort of spell, I guess, like what, because dealing with it ongoing, okay, I've made the decision, I'm writing the book, I get it. But
things.
how do you start? How do you overcome the initial resistance, that pushback that you get internally?
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm not doing them now. I'm doing it more online, but for many, many years, since 2010, I was doing a live event called Bookbound. And when we do it online through a digital course now, but people would come and of course they're coming to this event to write a book and learn how to write a book and publish a book and all of that. But the very first thing we start with is their beliefs and
Mm,
their mindset and
hmm.
the junk that is just holding them back. And you would be amazed how many people who on the outside look so confident and have all of these things going for
Yeah,
them, this is the one thing holding them back. But if I would have said, hey, come to this seminar, I'm going to work on your head junk and we're going to get excited about your beliefs, nobody would come.
that's
So
right.
I learned this from Zig. You give people what they need, right? Sell them what they want to buy, but give them what they need while they're there. So we start there because once we can get past that, then we can start looking into, okay, well, what would your story be? And what is my favorite part of working with authors is when they get that light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, my story, it's just me. It's just the stuff I've been telling my friends and my family and
That's right. Yeah.
my passions and it's my experiences and they're not all great, but you know what? I'm on the other end of it now and I can turn around and share that information with someone to make their journey easier. It is just the most like that's when they go, maybe I do have a story. But first we have to unlock what's mentally
Yeah.
holding back
Yeah.
because the process itself, it's just like a recipe. I mean, it's not hard, right? You have to edit it, you have to do a cover design, you have to do all this, but it's getting up to that point.
Yeah.
And one last thing I'll say, and I'll bring Zig back into this, is something that he would always say. Whenever the last several years he was alive, he did this more than ever, but he would always ask people, have you written a book? Have you written your book yet? That's what he would say.
Oh, okay.
And people would say, like, oh, no, no, no. And he's like, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. And one time I was in the office and I asked him why he always said that. And he said it's the person you become as a result
Mm,
of writing a book, not
really?
the book itself.
What did
And
he mean by that?
well, you know what? I think what I took out of it is that when you finally decide to do something like write a book, it's not about the book. It's about you being like, I am putting myself out there and sharing what's in me. I'm sharing my gifts. I'm putting it out into the world without worrying about what people think. And I do think, and I think back to my own journey with my first book. It took me 9 months from the time I started to the time I finished it. And I was a different person. I was more confident. I was more like, you know what? I do have a story and I do have a heart to help people. And this is worth it. Um, so I think that's what he meant by that. But I know he wanted everyone to write a book.
Wow. I agree with this, and here's I don't think you even know this, but I've written two books and I've shelved them.
It's
Okay.
awesome.
I have, yeah. And so the first one was just a spy novel, and I did it just for therapeutic creative expression reasons. And it was so much fun, but it was in a foreign language, it was for a different market. And then eventually actually it did oh, the reason I ended up writing it is that I started writing it and then somebody said, "Hey, this is a really good miniseries for TV."
Oh, wow.
And they were like they start pitch, so I basically got a little group of people really wanting to do this, a director and stuff like that, and they start pitching it. It was in Eastern European markets, and it was it was a couple of times very close to being picked up. So
Mm.
they would say, "Well, what's the next episode? What's the next sort of thing?" And so I kept writing this how the story, the arch of the story, and I was like halfway there, like might as well just do the book, right? So just as an just as a creative exercise, it ended up not being picked up,
Mm.
and then I wrote another one that's really more of a memoir type thing, and I shelved it as well because I don't want to write a memoir. I think it was also more of an exercise. And this book that I'm writing right now, it's one of those things that you just mentioned, is that you talk to people about certain things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk to my wife, my friends, as an immigrant coming to America, how grateful I am, how amazing that is, and how in my from my perspective, many Americans don't appreciate what they have,
Yeah.
and so they underappreciate what America is, what a miracle it is, or why it's a miracle. And
Mm.
I kept saying that for years and years and years, and Deb was like, you have to write these things down, right?
Yeah.
So eventually I started this book, and as
Yep.
I started writing this book, I'm sort of halfway there, and it's a smaller book. It's the format really inspires me because it's almost like a coffee shop table
Mhm.
book with lots of illustrations, very visual, very, and you can read it in like an hour and a half maybe. So I like the format. As I'm doing that and embracing the format, I go, oh, I think I have like 6 books in me now, you know?
Yeah.
So what you just described, I'm definitely feeling that transition into, yeah, I feel like I've changed as a human being because I'm writing this, and I feel like it's going to help some people. So here's my next question:
Okay.
what if you overcome that first step? If you go, okay, sign me up,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking obviously to the people in listening to this, watching this on whatever platform,
Mm-hmm.
is okay. I have a story to tell. I think it's relevant. I've overcome the sort of this major resistance thing, and I'm going to just go and I'm going to just put myself out there. What are some of the I guess first of all, just storytelling, formatting, niching,
Mm-hmm.
genre choosing, sort of those are some professional dimensions that I think in my mind are the next step of how do I tell this story? Is this is this a self-help thing? Is it a biography? Is it a what is it? How do I decide? Can you give us some tips on that?
I think first it comes down to I believe the messaging, and your example of your book is perfect because what I tell people is your best first book to write is a combination of your passions and your experiences. I mean, actually, that's just who you are, right? But the passion is what's going to keep you moving forward to get it done and not
Right.
shelve the book, right? But the experience is what gives it the credibility. So the one you're working on is just perfectly in alignment with that. And that's where I suggest starting. But then it's who am I writing this to? Am
Yeah.
I because how you write the book is really important. And the second part of that is what is the purpose? Whenever we
Mm,
do strategy calls with authors, that's my very first question. Why are you writing this book? And what do you want to have happen as a result of having the book? Some people will say, I'm doing this to build my business, a
mhm.
business card book. And we do a ton of those for business owners who want to have that instant authority, credibility for their business. Other people say, well, no, I just want to share my story for my family, my friends. That's a legacy book. And then
Okay.
there's lots of other books in between. And that's really the key of it. Or is it a true, for example, I'll show you like my business. This is a true little itty bitty business card book. I mean, there's your full size
Yeah.
business books, right? And it has a purpose to sell it and all of that. But this is more of an intention to give it away to get people to come back to do something. So whether it's to schedule a strategy call or to go to a seminar, it has a purpose. So that's kind of those two questions. Who is it for? And what do I want to have happen when somebody reads it? And that really determines how you write it. I think keeping it simple is important. If you wouldn't say it to somebody that way, I wouldn't write it that way. So going back to one question I tell people to ask themselves is, if you have one chance to help the group of people, whether it be business owners, moms, whoever, on the topic that you're writing about, and you have one chance to really give them all the information you know about it, what would you say? What are the main points? What are the big picture thoughts? Similar to when you do a speaking engagement, when you do a
That's right.
speaking,
Yeah.
you're
Hmm.
boiling it down. Well, that's exactly how a book is written too. And
And then the other sort of dimension post that. Okay, so we've decided on the audience, we've decided on the format. Why are you writing it? And then sort of the flow of it. I think for a non-professional, not a non-professional communicator,
yeah,
that can be just overwhelming.
it is.
The style, the language, the formatting, the chapter, all of that. How do you help people with that?
Well, the good news is there's a person called an editor, and their
Yes.
job is to make anything read better. But it's interesting. A lot of people think that they have to sit down at a keyboard and struggle, especially if they're not good writers or they don't love writing. And you don't. In fact, a lot of books are, many books that we do are not done that way. Most of them are done just like we're doing now on a Zoom call or on a recording to where we're just asking questions, and everything you would ever put into a book for nonfiction, it's in your head, right? It's your
Yes.
passions, it's your experience. So sometimes if you're struggling to get it out onto paper, getting somebody else to ask you those questions to pull it out of you is a great way to get started.
That's right.
And another way is, especially if you do speaking, is anytime you speak, record yourself, and then that can be transcribed and used as the basis. In fact, my second book I wrote was called Busy Being Busy But Getting Nothing Done. And it was on time management, productivity. And I was doing a lot of speaking on that topic around that book. But leading up to writing the book, I was speaking on it. And so I would just record those talks. And I literally took those recordings, and that's what created the book.
Yeah.
And it was done a lot quicker than sitting down and pounding it out on a keyboard. So the process, it doesn't matter how it gets done. It's just whether somebody helps you or you do it yourself, get it out of your head onto paper for an editor to then make it read great.
What is better, to self-publish or to look for someone to publish you for sort of a well-established publishing house, etc.? What
Yeah.
a what are the scenarios there that are choices, and what do we pursue actually?
Sure. There's three paths to publishing, and
Okay.
there's really no right or wrong, although I may hopefully lean you toward one of two ways. So there's the traditional model, which is what most of us are familiar with. It's been around for forever. And, Thomas Nelson and some of the big houses, and they pick up your book. And in some cases they pay you in advance. In most cases they don't, or it's very little, but they basically do the work. They have editors, designers, they publish the book. Now, the misconception is they're going to market the book for you and all that, but the truth is they don't. And that's why they'll only work with authors that already have an established platform. So first-time authors, that's not the route to go. And plus, they take 80 to 90% of the profit. They own the rights to your work. So for somebody like myself who was using my book to build my platform and share my story, why would I want to give that up?
That's
Which
right.
which really gives first-time authors the best two options are to self-publish or hybrid publish. And our company is a hybrid publisher. We call it partner publishing, but hybrid means it's somebody doing the work for you, just like the traditional publisher. The only difference is, and it's in many cases the same, some editors, same printers, so it's high quality, but the author still gets the benefit. They're not keeping the royalties. They're just doing the work for the author. And that obviously, to outsource the work is going to cost you more. But for most people, we work with a lot of business owners, their time is money. So it's worth investing a little bit to get it done and get it done right. The last option is self-publishing, and it's a very doable process. We help a ton of authors. That's what Bookbound Academy is for, people that want to self-publish. It's just a recipe. You have to know the steps. You need to know the order. You need to know where to go and how to do it right. But it's a very doable process. So the question is, which is right for you? Well, budget and time are the two most important things.
That's right. Yep.
If you're willing to invest a little more time and you want to save money, self-publish. If you're willing to, if your time is, you really don't want to learn all the ins and outs of how to get an ISBN and a Library of Congress registration and how to print it and Amazon optimization and all that stuff, well, then have a hybrid publisher do it for you. But at the end of the day, you have the same result. You're a published author. And so those are the determinations as to which route to go.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. I'm so grateful that I'm working with you guys, because I think the writing itself takes so much out of you. It's such an emotional labor heavy endeavor that adding logistics, tech expertise, all of the stuff that goes into the publishing, to me, that's I'm grateful that someone would take that off my shoulders, to be honest with you, and to have an extra pair of eyes, take a look at it as an editor, also hugely important. So I'm definitely on the hybrid model myself, but
it's a
but it
good model, yeah, and it's different from. I would say that the old way of publishing is kind of broken, and it was just too one-sided. It was in the benefit of the publisher, And so I think with folks like yourself sharing your personal stories, there's just a better way. And that's that I never intended nor wanted to get into publishing, I'll be honest. But it was a natural progression of like, a book, it's not about the book, but the book is what is going to enable you to get in front of more people to take your message and make an impact. That's really what a book is for, to
And
help
that was
others.
sort of my next question is how does that tell me from your perspective, um, the benefits in that are essentially core. The book is part of personal branding
Yeah,
as a concept.
right.
And can we maybe you and I both, because I help people with that as well on different levels in my coaching program. I help them from a marketing perspective on my Third Drive media company,
Mhm,
and then you're the publisher. So that whole dimension is exploding.
mhm.
I think the whole personal branding dimension that you can actually work for yourself, create lots of flexibility, lots of freedom on lifestyle, have a much broader audience and reach, and
Yes.
help more people. So, from your perspective, let's talk about personal branding and how publishing fits into this, and just the benefits in general.
So yeah, absolutely. And as much as I am a publisher, I still don't believe that a book is the only way to build your personal brand. It's just one way. And but think of it's the core message. So the core message, it is of course in a book, but your core message is also shared on a stage. It's shared in one-on-one coaching. It could be shared in a mastermind group. It could be shared on a podcast, right? And you could develop so much around that. The key is figuring out, how do people want to learn best? Not
Yeah,
everybody likes to read books. So taking your core message and broadening that allows you to reach more people. But there's also something that happens, and I do call it the power of authority. It was a book I wrote, but it's also a play on words that you can't spell authority without author,
mm,
meaning it is the easiest way to establish authority in the mind of somebody, like a
yep,
prospect. And that authority, deserved or not, happens before they read your book. So think about that. It's not about the book. It's not about what's in the book. It has to be done. It has to be done right. But it's the fact that you're published. And so what it goes back to, who you become as a result. So we view people that take action to write a book
mm,
as, wow, they must have some sort of an authority in order to do that.
that's
So,
right. Yeah.
mhm. So it's just one of the pieces though. And I love talking with you because you know the world of marketing and all of that media beyond what I know.
Hmm.
And but they go hand in hand.
They
And
really do. Yeah, they really do. And I think it's easy to hide behind an employer on
mm,
some level, honestly, right? On some level, it's easy to hide because you can get some benefits from your expertise, but you don't run all of the risk,
right.
and if you go, you know what, I'm going to just put myself out there as a human being with expertise and whatever X,
Mhm. Mm,
it is a scary, scary thing. But in modern times, I think in the last decade, just in the last decade, compared to the human history, it's less than a blink of an eye. It's a millisecond. The our ability to reach anybody, anywhere, with our expertise and our help, has exploded. And to not put yourself out there, I think, basically bears the question why,
mhm.
in my mind, right? And it comes down to, a lot of the times, not all the times, of course. I'm not going to like do making sweeping statements, but if you are capable of helping other people, not using the digital world that is exploding,
Mhm.
seems that as a almost like as an excuse
Mm.
to
Mm. Mm.
not really fulfill your full potential. And
Mm.
honestly, I promise I'm not saying that as a judgment on anybody who's listening. I'm
Right.
just saying that this is, even I'm talking to myself here as
Fine.
well. You know,
I'll
you
take
know, you know,
more.
exactly. I was actually talking to someone on the phone just literally an hour ago, where I was telling this lady, I said, look, you have a brand, you have a recognizable brand, a recognizable, you have expertise that is above, in the top 1%. I beg you to consider a personal brand and a channel on YouTube and other things like that, because in my mind, this is a responsibility.
Mm.
I know you, I'm your friend, and I'm telling you, it's your responsibility to do this, you know. And she was like, oh, you're right. You've told me this before. And, let's talk some more. So my point is, I say that to myself. I say that to my friends. I say that to anyone out there who might resonate with this, right? If you're maybe doubting, you're just not sure. Uh, Reach out to someone, get some coaching, get some help from Michelle. Uh, have allies who hold up your hands and help you make this step, because the step may change your life forever. It's
Totally.
happened to me before many times, actually more than once.
Mm.
And even this time, it's even though this is not my first time doing something like this, the fear, the resistance doesn't go away. You
No.
know, the doubts don't go away. You have to just live with them and be able to move forward. So
Yeah.
can I ask you this? And I would love to hear some stories, success stories of
Mhm.
people that you've worked with, and how sort of taking this one step, several baby steps at a time, to publishing, to moving forward, to being changed. In the words of Ziegler, you're a different person. What is the domino effect, the ripple effect of this, in from the
Wow.
stories that you know?
Yeah, gosh, I have so many stories too. It brings me so much joy when I see somebody years later and they're doing great things, and never was it on their radar before, right? And the book just opened up opportunities and doors. But so many people come to mind. I'll give you a few different types of
Okay.
examples. So from a business perspective, we have an author, and he's an amazing man, a doctor, and I talked about him a lot because he just has done so much. He already had a successful practice. We've done a couple books for him, but we did his first book, and he uses that book literally to uh, get people into his practice, and sends it out, or when he's having a one-on-one with them, puts it across the table, like, go to chapter 8. Those people we cured, he has a like a holistic business practice, and he'd be like, chapter 8 is how we help people with the exact same situation that you have. And it just instantly sold. And he said that that one book, the first book, brought in over 7 figures in additional revenue
Oh wow.
just from the book. And what's amazing, there was nothing in that book that wasn't out there. I mean, it was testimonials on his website. It was all the things he told him. But there was, again, it's that credibility. And if you think about it, we all want to work with the expert. We just do.
That's
And,
right. Yeah.
when you make it easy for your prospect to say, wow, he or she must be the expert, then it's a win for sure. So that's a business win. We've done so many projects for people with in ministry, or people that have been through something really traumatic, and it's on their heart to share that with others. I can think of a couple examples of some women who have been through just some horrible situations, but they're using that story to go out and help other women who might be in that same scenario right now. And um, there's just so many. Somebody who got a TEDx talk off of just their little mini book, and but the ones that are my favorite are really the ones that you could just see this almost like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon. Of,
Hmm.
I had it in me all along. I just didn't believe it. And then as soon as they just kind of, I say, just kind of stepped into who they already were, it's just all these things happen. And I think the reason I get excited is when I think back to my journey, that's exactly how I describe it. Because, and I'm faith-based as you are, and writing my first book was truly more of a uh, following the nudge, if you will, of, I feel like I just have to do this, and this isn't to build a business or anything like that. I use the excuse I'm writing it for my kids, but I knew I had to get this book out. And I saw that same exact thing happen with me. I had no idea what I was doing. But I went for it, and I never intended to share it with anyone, but then I did. But it was like that cocoon, opening up, and all of a sudden it was like almost God just nudging me to be who I already was.
Wow.
I
Really.
needed a little bit of a push off the cliff, if you know what I mean.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I used to always joke, that was my quote. When I was in that season, I'm like, I'm going to jump and just pray my wings grow on the way down, because I don't know what I'm doing. But it is the doors that were open for me, I didn't even know existed, let alone could have planned for.
Yes.
So those are the ones that I just love to see.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
That's my experience as well. I've seen it many times with friends of mine, with myself, and I just love this. I love what you do, and it's a joy to work with someone who is truly, genuinely excited about the
Mm.
what can happen, you
Yeah.
know. And your team is fantastic. They're just all professionals, a joy to work with. So tell us, is there more than one way to work with you or to benefit from your expertise and wisdom?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have the publishing company for people that know they don't want to do it themselves, done for you. And we do everything from write the book to publish the book to even launch the book, depending on what they need. And that's available through performancepublishinggroup.com. But then there's a lot of other things that we do for people that maybe they just want to learn the process. That's what Bookbound Academy is for. It's just, I don't even know if this is for me or what is my story. That will walk you through these exercises of
Ah, yeah,
figuring
that's
out, well,
important.
what
Yeah,
is
yeah.
story. Yes. And then it'll take you through the publishing and all that. But before you even make the decision to publish a book, just let's just see what comes up. What is it that you could share with people to make an impact? Um, and we do also a ton of other types of projects. One of my other favorite things that we do is, I do believe that once somebody starts on the publishing journey or the writing journey, not even publishing, they realize they have so much more to say. So we do a lot of these collaborative or compilation books where it's multi-authors, and they just write 3,000 words, and then which is a chapter in a bigger book. But what happens almost in all cases, they realize, wow, I think I really do want to tell more. I want to share more of my story, and then that just gives them the confidence to go out and write a whole book, a full book. So depending on where you feel comfortable starting, you don't have to write a full book to be a published author. It could be one chapter in somebody else's book, and
Oh,
you
that's a
saying one thing.
fascinating concept. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, is this academy virtual, in person? What, how do you get in there?
So Bookbound Academy, and it's bookboundacademy.com, is virtual. 50, there's like over 50 videos that you can do self-paced at your own.
Oh, great.
But then there's also, if you want to join the authority coaching and community that we have, that's more of we go through the process together. It's getting, through Zoom. We do it
Hmm.
that way. And then I do occasional live events throughout the year that are like I'm doing a writing retreat next month. That's just really geared for people to just come get away and write, and see what.
Wow. Hmm.
So
That's
lots of.
awesome.
I'd love to see what we could do because, as I mentioned in the beginning, there's no right or wrong way to do a book.
Hmm.
You do have to do one in order to really build your authority and build your platform.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, this has been fantastic for everyone online listening to this, watching this. I want to encourage you to really think about it. You have a story to tell. There's so much you can do. I mean, it's almost unfathomable for anyone with any expertise to not consider at least
Mhm.
creating a personal brand, developing, learning about it, and then B, writing something. Because once you write one book, I can guarantee you now, like I'm halfway through my first one that I'm actually going to publish this time for sure. And I can already think of 4 or 5 books that are in me. Uh,
Mhm.
I believe I'll probably take a very short break and get going on the next one. So thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone else, please give us a like, spread the word, send it to someone who needs to listen to this, okay, or watch it, because I know you have a friend who needs to write a book, and just help us grow the channel. Every like, every comment helps us grow the channel and bring amazing people on. Thanks again.